Past, Now Read presents another entry in our anthology of stories that need to be told. Trigger. Enjoy. If you have a story that needs to be told, email it to stories@pastnowread.com. Trigger. Rooftop Trigger. A rooftop in Beirut, pre-dawn, September 18th, 2024. The rooftop stank of diesel smoke and sweat. Old sweat. Mine. I'd been up there for hours, crouched behind a concrete parapet, watching the city pulse like a sleeping animal, unaware of what was coming. In the gray-blue wash of morning, Beirut looked innocent. Half-finished towers and tired minarets, rising from the fog like the bones of something that used to believe in peace. I looked down at the remote in my hand, a matte black trigger pad. No blinking lights, no digital readout, just a single red button. I built it that way, on purpose, simple, human. The moment I pressed it, 5,000 pagers, planted with PETN explosive, would flash and burn through Hezbollah's ranks. We designed them to maim, not vaporize. Deliberate, calculated, surgical. Mira's voice echoed in my head. Surgical means knowing where the arteries are, not pretending they don't bleed. She hadn't come with me, not since the briefing, not since she saw the last dry run, the one with the goat carcasses, the one that smelled like burnt hair and silicone. I adjusted the earpiece. Control, this is Sparrow, I whispered. Visuals confirmed, targets in range, awaiting final authorization. But I didn't wait. I looked east. The sun hadn't broken yet, but the sea was starting to glow in that sickly, electric way it does before a storm. Somewhere out there, Mira was watching too, maybe at the apartment, maybe with the laptop open. Screen flickering between conscience and code. I pressed the button. No sound at first. Just a flicker in the skyline, then another and another, like lightning caught in glass. Then came the noise, pulses of panic, horns, sirens, then screams. I dropped the remote. It clattered to the rooftop gravel like a weapon I didn't recognize, and that's when I knew. I hadn't just blown open a war. I'd shattered the only thing in this world still keeping me human. Mira. Flashback. Recruitment, Vienna, Austria. 6 months earlier, a fintech conference turned covert meeting. They found me in Vienna, of all places, not Tel Aviv, not DC, Vienna, a city too beautiful for the kinds of conversations we were about to have. I was presenting an algorithm that day, a predictive model for cross-border currency shifts, optimized by sentiment mining and regional supply chain anomalies. It wasn't sexy, but it worked. The room applauded like they understood it. A few did, most didn't, but one man stayed after the claps died. He wore a blue scarf in spring, and his face was unreadable. "You've built something," he said, "something more dangerous than you realize." I laughed. "It's just math." He handed me a card. No name, just a symbol, a broken circle with a dot in the center. Mossad. I knew without being told. They brought me underground, literally. 4 levels below a parking garage in Jerusalem. No cell signal, no clocks, just hums and reinforced doors. That's where I met Mira. She wasn't what I expected. No black suit, no surveillance watch, just a loose ponytail, a faded, rise against t-shirt, and a tired smile that made her look more human than anyone I'd met since grad school. "She's built the framework," Levin, our handler, said. "You're gonna weaponize it." Mira tilted her head. "That a problem?" I said nothing at first. Then, "Only if you get in my way." She grinned. "I'm more useful when I'm dangerous." I remember the first thing I noticed about her wasn't her brilliance or her sarcasm. It was the way she touched the code. Like it breathed, like it had secrets. Where I saw systems, she saw people. That difference would matter later. The project was already in motion. They called it Operation Pulse, an AI system designed to hijack Hezbollah's communication infrastructure. We wouldn't jam them, we'd sell them their own death. Gold Apollo pagers, Chinese chips, Hungarian fronts, financial networks camouflaged in international shell corporations. We'd rig the tools of command and control with silence, and shatter them all at once. But back then, it wasn't real yet. It was just an idea and an introduction to the woman who had built the conscience I was too efficient to have, to Mira. Tech briefing. Secure Mossad facility. Jerusalem. AI war room. Weeks after recruitment, the war room looked like a data center had crashed into a morgue. Clean lines, soft blue glow, and silence that didn't feel earned. Screens lined the walls, filled with satellite feeds, financial charts, and scrolling code that blinked like it knew too much. Levin stood in front of us, his hands folded behind his back. His voice, always composed, cut through the cold air. "This is the Gold Apollo AR-924, he said, tapping the device on the table. "Distributed to over 5,000 Hezbollah operatives across Lebanon and Syria. Manufactured in Taiwan, shipped through Budapest, modified by us." He opened the back panel with surgical care. Inside wasn't just a battery. It was the quietest weapon I'd ever seen. "PETN, he said. "Plastic explosive, shaped, compressed, wrapped in graphite foil. No metal signature. Detonator buried in the logic board, disguised as a power regulator. Custom-built ringtone triggers the charge." He turned this pager in his hand like a relic. "Detonation radius, 18 inches, just enough to eliminate the user, not the room." Mira crossed her arms. "That's a fine line. That's psychological warfare," he corrected. "We don't want martyrs. We want paranoia." The AI interface flickered beside him. Mira's handiwork. It tracked pager orders in real time. Who bought what, where, and how funds moved through a spiderweb of shell companies. I watched our algorithm flag transactions from Beirut, Homs, and the Bekaa Valley, all green lit. Mira didn't speak, neither did I, because the machine wasn't blinking anymore. It was breathing, and soon it would be killing. First doubt, late night, Mossad safe house. 2 weeks before detonation, the safe house overlooked the hills outside Jerusalem, far enough from the city lights to see stars, close enough to still feel the weight of what we were doing. Mira was at the terminal, her face lit by a low amber glow. She hadn't moved in an hour. I could tell from the untouched tea beside her, lukewarm, sweat beading down to the glass. She turned toward me, eyes darker than I remembered. The AI updated casualty predictions. I sat down slowly. "Go on." She tapped the screen. We ran the model with fresh intercepts. New delivery batches pushed into civilian zones. Some pagers ended up in community liaison offices. Non-combatants, teenage runners, support staff. I stared at the projection. 52 potential casualties. 11 flagged as civilian adjacent. 4 unconfirmed. "We're already in motion," I said. "Most of the units are embedded. If we abort." "We don't abort," she cut in. "We reroute, delay, something." The silence after that felt thick, like wet fabric draped over a conversation we couldn't finish. "You told me this was surgical," she whispered, "that it would feel clean." "No," I said. "I told you it would feel necessary." She turned back to the screen. Her hands trembled as she minimized the terminal. "Necessary doesn't mean right." Then she stood, and for the first time in weeks, didn't kiss my shoulder on the way past. I sat there, long after she was gone, staring at the flickering green grid lines of the AI dashboard. The machine knew exactly who we were targeting, but it didn't know what we were losing, and maybe, deep down, neither did I. Deployment. Budapest and Tel Aviv. Simultaneous montage of rollout. Budapest was gray that morning. Not ominous, just tired. The kind of sky that forgets to finish raining. From the window of the safe flat above Kirali Street, I watched the first shipment leave the BIAC Consulting warehouse. 40 crates marked emergency communication devices loaded onto a truck bound for Beirut. A logo on the side read, Apollo Safety Group. Mira designed it. She said the font had to be confident but forgettable. Inside those crates were the AR-924s, each modified, each indistinguishable from 100 others. The PETN was thin enough to avoid detection. dense enough to maim. The detonators were tucked into the circuitry like parasites. The whole operation rode on a bluff that no one would question the origins of something that beeped like it belonged. We'd built a Trojan horse from plastic and branding, and now it was trotting through enemy gates. Back in Tel Aviv, the AI map pulsed like a heartbeat. Green dots blinked across the Mediterranean coast. Receipt confirmations, signal pings, GPS timestamps. Our system tracked which Hezbollah units accepted deliveries, how fast they redistributed them, and which zones they moved into. Mira stood beside me, silent. She hadn't spoken much since the casualty projections. She just watched the map, arms folded, lips tight. I broke the silence. They're using them. Early comms intercepts show logistics officers are wearing them clipped to their flak vests. She nodded slowly. The devices work. I caught her tone. You mean the bombs work? She didn't answer. Instead, she opened a new terminal window and began mapping the blast radii over dense urban districts. Some of the red circles overlapped. Tell me again, she asked, eyes still on the screen. What we're stopping that's worth this? I didn't have an answer she'd believe, so I gave her the one I could live with. If we don't bleed the serpent from its head, we'll end up cutting off its tail forever. She stared at me like I'd said nothing at all. Then she walked out of the room, and for the first time, I wondered if I'd misunderstood what side of the line we were on. Prep for launch. Mossad Operations Bunker. 48 hours before detonation. We worked underground in a bunker so quiet it felt like we were stealing time. No windows, just the glow of 7 monitors, the smell of soldered plastic, and the hum of AI cores warming up for their final predictive sweep. Outside, the world thought it was business as usual. But in this place, this sealed nerve center beneath Jerusalem, we were minutes from rewriting how modern war felt. Mira sat cross-legged on the floor, a tangle of calibration wires looped around her wrist like jewelry. She looked exhausted. Hair undone, sleeves rolled, eyes rimmed with insomnia, but her hands were steady as they tapped through final firmware patches. I watched her for a while, without saying anything. Then, softly, "You still think we're the good guys?" She didn't flinch. "I think we're the last ones pretending to ask that question." Her screen pinged. AI output, 95% confirmed delivery, 96.7% target overlap with command hierarchy. Risk of civilian exposure, 3.8%. The numbers weren't perfect, but they never were. Mira stood and crossed to me, holding out the last modified pager, the prototype. She placed it in my palm, like a relic, not a weapon. "It's done," she said. We stood there, face to face in the quiet hum of systems ready to kill. She searched my eyes for something. Absolution, maybe, or fear, or doubt. "You'll be the one to press it," she whispered. "Not them, not me, you." Her fingers grazed mine. "And when it's over, promise you'll still be in there." "In where?" She placed her hand lightly over my chest. "Whatever's left of this." We didn't kiss, not that night, but we sat in silence. Me with the remote on my lap, her with a line of code frozen on the screen. And even though we were surrounded by machines designed to predict everything, neither of us could guess what we'd just lost. The Trigger, Beirut Rooftop, pre-dawn, September 18th, 2024. When the first detonation rippled through the skyline, I didn't feel it in my ears. I felt it in my teeth, like the city's bones had cracked and were singing. 1 second, there was stillness. The next, sirens, dogs barking, distant shouts. Then, another pop, muffled and sharp, like glass exploding inside someone's chest. From my rooftop perch, I could see smoke curling from 5 points. Then 9, all marked zones, all green lit by the system. The AI had predicted down to the street corners where Hezbollah's mid-tier logistics officers would be stationed at that exact hour. It had been right, too right. I kept the earpiece in. Across the encrypted channel, Levin's voice sounded surgical. Detonations confirmed. 37 of 41 devices activated on time. Remaining 4 offline. Probable delivery lag. I didn't respond. He continued. No collateral flagged on early scans. Initial asset loss, consistent with projections. Collateral. Projections. He talked like we were accountants balancing a quarterly report. I looked at the remote still in my hand. My thumbprint had activated the sequence. A press, a pause, a signature. The trigger hadn't even clicked. It had just surrendered. Somewhere in the city, a man lay with half a pager lodged in his throat. Mira wasn't answering her phone. I pulled up the secure live feed from command. Scrolling casualty data. Alerts pinged. Field reports bled across the screen like open wounds, but I didn't read them. I was staring at a static freeze frame. One image the AI kept highlighting over and over again. It was Mira, somewhere near Hamra Street, standing still, looking up, and in her hand was a pager. Fallout and betrayal. Mossad safe house, Tel Aviv. 36 hours after detonation, the debrief room smelled like burnt plastic and antiseptic soap. One too clean, the other too familiar. The television played muted news reports in the corner. Same footage on loop. Black smoke in Sidon. Bodies draped in Hezbollah fatigues. A child's sneaker in the rubble. Headlines rolled past in 3 languages, all guessing what no one would admit. I sat alone, with a black coffee I hadn't touched. Mira finally walked in. She dropped a folder on the table. It slid toward me like it was angry. 72 confirmed dead, 47 injured, 9 of those unarmed aides. 2 couriers, under 17. I didn't open it. She leaned in, eyes fixed and furious. You said the AI could isolate hierarchy, that it would predict rank, roles, exposure windows. It did. No, she snapped. It estimated, and you gambled. I forced myself to meet her eyes. We bled the command structure. They're shattered. Hezbollah's central logistics are paralyzed. We hit them where no drone ever could. Her hands shook as she pulled something from her pocket. A pager, half melted, charred on one side. The screen frozen mid-alert. This came from a civilian charity hub. A food coordinator wore it. Her name was Yasmin. She cooked rice for a school 5 blocks from the blast site. Mira, she's dead. The silence after that wasn't just empty. It was judgment. She sat, finally, but far from me, like we weren't built from the same code anymore. I saw my face in the blast overlay. She whispered, "Did you know the system flagged me?" I closed my eyes. "Yes. You didn't pull me. I knew you'd walk out if I did." She stared at me like a stranger. "You already made that choice." Then she stood, took nothing with her. Not the folder, not the pager, not me. And when the door closed behind her, the only sound left in the room was the buzz of the news feed. And I swear, even the AI hesitated before blinking again. I predicts exposure. Mossad operations. Bunker. 72 hours after detonation. The system blinked red at 2:06 a.m. It wasn't an error. It was a warning. Predictive anomaly detected. Cross-network propagation event in progress. I stared at the monitor. Mira wasn't beside me anymore. Her chair was empty. Her coffee mug still half full. Lips pressed once to the rim, and never again. The AI began cycling the data faster than I'd seen it before. Financial nodes across Europe lit up in sequence. Zurich, Budapest, Vienna, Geneva, each one cross-referencing Shell accounts tied to BIAC Consulting and their courier firm aliases. It wasn't Hezbollah doing the digging. It was someone bigger. I ran a recursive trace. 3 hops back. The origin pinged from Langley. NSA bleed through. Then another from Brussels. Interpol Financial Crimes Division. Third one masked, but the routing screamed GCHQ. The machine spat out a risk projection. 72% probability, joint international audit of BIAC-linked shadow accounts within 5 days. 49% probability, Israeli operational exposure within 8 days. 91.3% probability, direct link to Sparrow signature if trace completes. Me. The AI had calculated my signature, the packet stamps, the crypto wallet we used to fund the first purchase chain. Mira had warned me about keeping my Trace ID on the remote login node. I ignored her. Now the ghost of her caution filled the room like smoke. A message from Levin pinged seconds later. Extraction protocol available. Burn the drive. Burn the safe house. You were never there. I didn't respond, because the truth was, I hadn't burned a thing yet. Not the drive, not the house, not the last piece of myself that still wanted to be seen. And the AI knew it. It just hadn't told anyone else, yet. The confrontation. Deep underground bunker, Jerusalem, hours after AI. Trace, warning. I found Levin exactly where I expected, beneath Jerusalem, 2 levels below the ops war room, in the part of the bunker you needed a retinal scan and a lack of conscience to enter. The lights down there were red, pulsing in rhythm with the heartbeat of the AI servers. It wasn't ambiance. It was a warning. Someone, somewhere, had flagged the system. The machine was folding in on itself. Levin stood alone in front of a holographic map, hands behind his back, watching national borders glow and bleed in real time. You should have told me the operation was compromised, I said. He didn't turn. I told you what you needed to execute. Anything else was above your clearance. We're days away from full exposure. The system is flagging every account tied to BIAC, including my access node. He exhaled slowly. It was never just about the pagers. That stopped me cold. He turned then, face calm as a closing door. The pagers were phase 1, proof of concept. Our AI isn't just a strike engine. It's the architecture for global disruption, financial paralysis, behavioral manipulation. We don't stop Hezbollah. We bankrupt the alliances that feed it. You lied. He stepped closer, voice low. We refined. You don't win wars anymore. You steer them, and you've proven our tool works. I pulled the encrypted flash drive from my pocket, holding it between us. This has every trace log, every civilian fatality, every shell route and false identity. He smiled faintly. You won't leak it. Why not? Because if you do, you'll kill her too. Mira's in the logs. Her work, her overrides, her late-night patches. You burn this, she burns with it. Silence hung heavy. For a moment I couldn't breathe. Besides, he said, eyes sharp, you still believe in the machine. I stared at him and realized he wasn't betting on the AI anymore. He was betting on me. Mira's choice. Abandoned apartment in Haifa, 12 hours after confrontation with Levin. The apartment hadn't changed since the last time we used it. Just a box of cement and forgotten light. The power was out, windows covered in old newspaper, and the only illumination came from Mira's laptop screen glowing cold in the dark. She didn't look at me when I entered. You came, she said. I nodded. You knew I would. She closed the laptop slowly, the click of the lid sounding louder than it should. Her eyes were bloodshot, her voice even. You talked to Levin. I sat across from her on the floor, careful not to break the silence more than I had to. He confirmed everything. The AI was just phase 1. The financial pipelines, the predictive modeling. It's not about targeting enemies. It's about controlling narratives. Steering the future. Mira didn't react, just stared through me like I was already part of the wreckage. I held out the encrypted drive. It's all here. The pager ops, civilian casualties, phase 2's launch windows, AI behavior branches, and every compromised account. If this leaks, my name is in that chain, she said quietly. Line 14,762. AI logic override. Civilian flag deactivation. I'll take the fall, I said. You won't get the chance, she replied. They'll paint us both as rogue assets. Treason, espionage. Pick your headline. I looked down. We could disappear, dump the drive, start again. She shook her head. That's not redemption. That's retreat. I searched her face. It wasn't defiance I saw. It was exhaustion and clarity. I'll write the release protocol, she said. But if this gets out, it ends my life as I know it. I reached for her hand. She let me. I won't ask you to stay, I whispered. She didn't flinch. But I will, she said. We sat in silence, side by side, while the world we helped build trembled on a flash drive between us. And I realized She hadn't chosen the mission. She'd chosen the truth. Escape. Mossad, covert relay facility, night of the data dump. The AI knew we were leaving before we did. At 02:14, it rerouted 2 internal power nodes and shifted the facial recognition sweep to the east corridor. That was our cue. Mira slammed her laptop shut. The leak's uploading. 4% encrypted broadcast, bouncing through Reykjavik, Logos, and back into Prague. We had 7 minutes, maybe less. The relay facility was buried beneath an office tower scheduled for renovation. Concrete hallways, red emergency lighting, and a heat signature matrix in every vent. We'd helped design it to trap enemies. Now, we were the ones trying to escape it. I palmed the biometric lock on the fire corridor. West exit's clean. Mira stuffed the drive into her jacket and followed. Her hand brushed mine. Brief, electric, final. Then the alarm sounded. Not a blare, a pulse. Deep and low, like a countdown. No one could stop. "They're here," I said. Mira didn't ask who. She already knew. The AI had rerouted local surveillance feeds. We were ghosts to the cameras, but the drones were analog, older tech, with infrared eyes and teeth. We turned those last hallway and nearly ran into one. Gunmetal black, no insignia, just the silent hum of a tri-rotor and the unmistakable glint of a stun barrel warming up. I stepped forward, blocking Mira. It hovered, calculating. My pulse synced with the alarm, steady, defiant. Mira whispered, "You don't have to." I raised both hands. "I do." The drone hesitated, just enough. Mira slipped past it, into the stairwell. Then I ran, not to follow her, but to buy her time. As I turned the corner, I heard the stairwell door slam shut, and in that moment, I didn't know if she'd make it, but I knew one thing. She was finally free. You have been listening to Trigger, produced and adapted for audio narration by Past, Now, Read. Stories that need to be told. If you have a story that needs to be told, email it to stories@pastnowread.com. Please subscribe and hit that bell for future updates. If you like this story, stay tuned for the next episode. Each Thursday evening at 6:30 p.m. Follow for more. If you like our stories, please tag with someone who may also like Past, Now, Read. Stories that need to be told. It would really help our channel. Thank you. All content and images are copyrighted by Faux Nayhouse, LLC, 2025, all rights reserved.